Okay, so I had showed you a box of Hildy bolts that I had got in my last shop update. I got the lift in the scissors lift in the shop, just on the charger now. But I kind of told you that there was something new that was going to be coming to the shop. Well, here it is. 12,000-pound car truck lift. What it was is there's a shop a couple of doors down from me, same complex, a couple of doors down, plumbing shop. They had this in their plumbing shop, and for whatever reason, they didn't need it anymore, didn't want it anymore, have somebody else doing the service on their vehicles, whatever. Yeah, I got it. So we took it out yesterday. I didn't film any of it. We took it out of that plumbing shop yesterday. It was kind of a bitch. It is fairly high. I think it's over 13 feet. But the problem was getting it out of the plumbing shop. It actually, they put it up, they had a company come in and install this thing. They put it up, and the top of the lift was actually higher than the steel I-beam. So it sat right behind a steel I-beam. Now to get it down, there wasn't enough room to, or we didn't really want to, it would have been feasible to do it that way, is lay it down. So what we did is kind of picked it up with a forklift and then tilted it up so that we could get it out from underneath the I-beam, some plumbing lines, and out the overhead door. And then once it was out the overhead door, I just kept it upright on the forklift until I got to my shop. And then I had the same issue with that overhead door. We just had to can it up. And how we did it was, it was, these posts are pretty heavy. Little side story, but I'll tell you about it in a minute. These posts are pretty heavy, so what I did is put a couple of C-clamps up here and choked it. Put the C-clamps right under this, choked it here, stuck the forks through the choker. But it wanted to pivot back on the forklift. So to hold it out, we took a chain and put it onto the lift. And as I was driving out with the forklift, another guy would drive the lift out and cant the bottom of the post out so that the top came down. And then once we got outside the door, we let off the pressure. I just drove it down the street and brought it back into my shop. Yeah. There it is. 12,000 pound. Here's the accessories for it, the pads and the different size posts. They all go in there. It's not hooked up yet. We just got it bolted down yesterday. I've still got to adjust the cables on it. I'm not sure how, if all lifts work the same. It's got cables on it with a hydraulic cylinder on both sides. I guess the cables are there to keep both sides even, because there's a hydraulic hose, a hydraulic pump. There's a hydraulic cylinder down here, and then there's a hydraulic line that goes across the top and comes down and ties into this backside here. See it? So I guess the cables are just there to keep it tensioned evenly. But I've still got to adjust those cables on both sides to where they were originally. When we had to disconnect logically since the post came out, that top piece came out of there, and we disconnected the cables on each side. As I was saying, I've got to retension them. I disconnected the hydraulic line, and then kind of rolled up everything with whichever post it was on, and then reconnected them, bolted the thing down yesterday. We did this all yesterday, took it out and brought it over here and installed it back into here yesterday. But it's all bolted down. It's not torqued yet. What I've got to do is still do the wiring on it, kind of get those cables back in there. This little cable it's got a Paul type locking system on it. So there's a box and a handle that goes around this thing, and this cable attaches to this. And when you want to release it, it's got to go up a little bit. You pull this handle down, and it releases the pawls on both sides so that it will release. The pawls are there as kind of like a safety factor. But the funny story about this, I told you there was a funny story about this. These are 3/4 inch Hildy bolts that we put into the floor. And again, I said I'm going to torque them down, but when we went over there to start taking this thing apart, absolutely none of the bolts in the floor were tight. We could take the nuts off of all of them by hand. And they use this thing pretty often, but I think they moved it. It originally had been set up by this company into their shop, and then the bay that it was in, they didn't need that bay anymore. So what they did is moved it over one bay. They didn't have to take anything down though, because it was in the building and it had been installed behind that I-beam that I was talking about to begin with. So they just moved it over one bay. So they didn't have to tilt it or anything like that, but when they put it back together, they never tightened any of the bolts that are in the floor, unless they tightened them, and then once they started lifting vehicles up in this thing, it kind of compressed the post back down a little bit so that the bolts loosened up. So that's something that I will check, because that is a possibility that it happened that way. So after I've used this thing a couple of times, I'll retorque those bolts that go down into the floor. Bolts are there just, there's 6 3/4 in each leg of this thing, and those bolts are there just basically to stabilize it, hold it in place. When you're lifting a vehicle, most of the weight is compression down onto that, so there's not really any pulling on those bolts, just kind of more holding it in place. But anyways, there it is, the new lift, 12,000 pound rated. We're going to do a little sidebar on this lift. One of the things that I was extremely happy about getting this thing in the first place, but one of the biggest things that it made me extremely happy is I have just gotten a way of getting the sleeper onto the haul truck. My shop is very limited. I can pick it up. I have fork extensions that I built for the forklift truck, and I've got fork extensions that I can lift, we'll get under the sleeper, and I can lift it up with the forklift truck and drive it out of there. But I have very limited space in the shop to be able to get the forklift truck to the side of the the side of the haul truck and be able to set it down onto it. now what I can do is bring that over here to with the forklift truck, just pick it up onto the on the lift, the sleeper on the lift, and just roll the chassis of the haul truck underneath it to use it to fit up with. But I just wanted to give you that little sidebar on the lift. Really happy with it. You know, one of the things that I got is yesterday while I was installing that lift, I got a couple of boxes delivered UPS, and they're not viewer gifts, but I kind of thought I'd show them to you like a little unboxing. They're actually some stuff that I bought for my trailer. I had lost one of my 3-inch straps in a haul, so I got a couple of new 3-inch straps, but they're a little bit different. These have got chains on them, whereas my other straps just had the binder loops on them, and the same way with the strap. So it's got the chain on it. I wanted to try them out. Thought that they would be a lot more convenient to hook up. And the other thing that I got was, and let me show it to you. Again, I had lost one of my straps on a haul, so I wanted to replace that strap that I had lost. And here is that strap, and this is what I was talking about, the normal binder that you have on a strap. Oh, these are a little different. But anyways, and I got some more corner protectors. They're not really edge protectors, they're corner protectors, and they go over like sharp corners, 90-degree corners on a load if you're tarping it. I had lost a couple on a load, and wanted to just get some more of them. But anyways, there it is. Really, I didn't realize that was going to be different like that. Try it out, see how it works. Really anxious to try out the ones with the chains on them. So here we go. First time that there's been a truck on the lift. Well, we're changing the fuel filters, but this airbag got twisted over, so we had to loosen it up. Of course, when we loosened it up, the U-bolt broke, so we made a new U-bolt for it, put it back on, and straightened it up. In the fuel filters. First time. And here's a view of it from up on the ladder for the rack.
So loose?
Yep.
Going all the way down?
Going all the way down. All the way down. cool. Okay, I'm not sure how well this is going to show up, but what I did is stain the deck. I used a Minwax oil-based stain on it. I'll let it dry for a couple of days, and then what I'll do is go over it with like a deck sealer or something like that. I don't want a glossy coat on it, but you know, just something that'll help preserve it along with the stain. But I think it looks a lot better with the stain. And again, I'm not really sure how it's going to turn out. I'm going to put a pick and pick up here of the way the trailer used to look before it was stained. Actually, I stained just this one section and then took a picture of it, so there's a contrast between that section and the rest of it. Bring it back. So one of the things that I had talked about in previous shop updates regarding the new truck was that I probably have to remove that tank again so that some other work could be done. What I'm doing is just giving you a shot before that other work gets done. Bring you back. Just kind of a quick shot of the engine compartment too. Man, a lot of emission shit.